What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It is Iowa Primetime Live. And might we say, welcome to game week, baby. We made it. It is game week, 5 days away from Hawkeye football. Good evening, Josh Elmer alongside Zach Heine. This is Iowa Primetime Live, Iowa at the voice of college football. We got the Iowa depth chart today, and apologies that this is scrunched just a smidge, but I think you can see most all of the important items here from the depth chart that got revealed today by Iowa. One of the first surprises, Zach, and I would encourage folks to go check out our written work, HawkeyesWire.com. You wrote about 3 surprises, Zach, and well, one of those surprises is right at the top of the screen, my friend.
Yeah, it's impossible to miss right up there at the top. Reece Vander Zee not a starter for Iowa week 1 against Albany. It's really surprising when you think about just how he was viewed by the fan base and even the coaching staff heading into this season, even after they got Sam Phillips in the transfer portal, that Reece Vander Zee was someone that people were really excited about. Taking a second-year jump, the rapport with Mark Gronowski being someone on the outside that can go deep, that can help bring some more explosive plays consistently to this Iowa offense. And so the fact that he's not listed as a starter is very interesting. I won't say it's a bad thing or it's a good thing one way or the other. I think it's just I think interesting is the best word for it. But I do think it speaks very well to Seth Anderson and the camp that he's had. The reports about him have just been off the charts this offseason, and his rapport with Mark Gronowski has apparently been really, really, really great. And so I think it's a good sign, and it bodes well for Seth Anderson's development that he is a starter here in week 1. But I'm certainly not writing off Reece Vander Zee. I was going to need every single one of these guys to contribute on this offense. So even though he's not listed as a starter, he's one injury away from being a starter. Or if he goes out and he plays really well, he could easily leapfrog someone, or we see, a platoon almost between him and Anderson or him and Phillips. I think that I'm not reading too much into it, but it is really interesting that he's not listed as that starter for this Iowa wide receiver room. And maybe it puts a bit of a chip on his shoulder heading into Albany and Iowa State, seeing if he can make some big plays.
So, look, it's the first depth chart we've seen since the beginning of spring. And oh, by the way, Reece Vander Zee was a starter on that depth chart. Kirk Ferentz has said so many times over the years and in the past, Zach, that don't get totally married to the depth chart. I will be curious. We'll hear from Kirk Ferentz, obviously, tomorrow afternoon, and he's going to get asked about some of the developments on this depth chart. We knew that left tackle was still an ongoing battle. Kirk Ferentz said as much to close camp last week on Thursday, that Jack Dotzler was one of the most improved. That's what Kirk Ferentz said last week. And but he and Trevor Lauk were in a big-time competition, and it wasn't decided yet. That is reflected upon this opening Iowa depth chart. You got that or, and it's an important or right there at left tackle for the Hawkeyes. So, I mean, I would have to think, Zach, that sets us up for we're going to see quite a bit, I would imagine, right, of both in this opener versus Albany. And maybe whoever performs better is the guy that takes the job long-term and runs away with it. All of which is to say, as we look at this offensive depth chart, Zach, I think there's parts of it that you can look at and say, okay, that's Iowa being pretty transparent about where they're at, which is they're undecided right now at left tackle. Kirk Ferentz said as much last week. And then there's the Reece Vander Zee decision at wide receiver, which makes me wonder, are we going to hear tomorrow that he's a little dinged up? Is there something else going on? Or has Sam Phillips just been really impressive? That's not really, I don't think, the buzz that we got throughout camp. Sam Phillips was not somebody that you heard that was just wowing everyone. Obviously, he comes over from Chattanooga, and you hoped that he could be an impactful transfer portal addition and acquisition for Iowa. But again, it didn't feel like there was that hefty buzz for Sam Phillips throughout camp. You did hear that about Seth Anderson, and that was reflected in this depth chart. So again, Zach, that's me kind of saying I'm curious to hear from the head football coach tomorrow on how much stock should we put into all of this?